Okay, we've got 2/3 of our championship team right here. Congratulations to Roger Penske and the number 2 Miller Lite Dodge, crew chief Paul Wolfe, and Roger. We had you up here on Friday, and I know this has got to be just a terrific moment for you, not only professionally but personally. And congratulations on winning the 2012 NASCAR Sprint Cup Series championship. Your thoughts?
Well, first I want to thank the media and obviously all the fans that turn out for these races for 38, 39 weekends around the country, and all the folks in our company, some 40,000 that supported us. But I guess this was a plan. We talked about it earlier this week, and we stayed on our plan. Obviously, the man on my left, Paul Wolfe, was a great operator from the standpoint of getting Brad where he needed to be. Pulling this team together, over the last 3 years has been amazing. And for me, it's a goal that I had. You could see that it wasn't easy. You just didn't line up and go today because Chad Knaus and, as I said, the elite group, the Hendricks boys and Jimmy Johnson were very strong today, and they were throwing everything they could at us. So to me, it's something I can't hardly believe right now. I played this race in my mind over the weekend so many times, what could happen, yes or no. But I guess when Jimmy lost that lug nut, I said someone gave us 4 aces right there in our hands. So what we need to do is be sure we didn't drop them. But, I just want to thank Paul for the great job he's done in building this team.
And Paul Wolfe, just talk about what it means to be a championship crew chief and just the thoughts about winning here today at Homestead-Miami, winning the championship.
Well, it's obviously very special, not only for myself, but everybody at Penske Racing. And so much has gone into this, and I'm thankful for the opportunity that RP has given me and Brad. And there's been plenty of lists we've passed his way of things we wanted, and it was our job when we got those things to go out there and perform. And I feel like for the most part we've tried to do that. And over the last 3 years we've been able to accomplish a lot of great things. For me personally, I haven't taken a whole lot of time to think about what this means. As we got into the chase, it was taking one race at a time and trying not to think about the championship and getting maximum points that we could and running as well as we could. And it came down to today, to being in the position we were in. Obviously, I was a little disappointed in myself that we weren't able to give Brad a better car today. Definitely made it one of the toughest races in my career to date. And I think a lot of that just shows how tough it is to win at this level and win a championship like that. And to be able to battle with Chad and Jimmy, in this championship even makes it more special to me, just knowing how great those guys are and what they've been able to accomplish. But I don't know, it's going to take some time to sink in, but just real proud of the effort. It was exciting to be able to get Dodge a championship, being they're leaving the sport this year. It was very cool, and all the support they've given us to make this happen over the last 3 years. So proud of the effort, and we'll have to see how I feel tomorrow morning.
Let's start up here with Ed Hinton, and then we'll go to David Caravello, and then to Lee. Go ahead right here. Where's the wireless mic, please? Ed, David, Lee.
Ed Hinton, ESPN.com. Roger, over the years, especially in IndyCar racing, you've had an awful lot of awfully big sponsors. You've had some drivers give them a lot of bang for the buck, Rick Mears and Elio for Marlboro, etc. But have you ever had a driver give your sponsor more bang for the buck than Brad Keselowski did on his live sports interview a while ago, while he was cheerleading the crowd and telling his life story pretty much in good down-home tavern talk?
Well, that's good. I think that I saw him as a great driver, a good tactician. I didn't realize he was commercially viable. I guess he was tonight.
Let's go to David Caravello, and then to Lee Spencer.
David Caravello, NASCAR.com. Paul, it sounded like on the radio in those final laps, you guys really wanted at least 16th to sort of remove any sort of thought that you guys might have backed into that. Was that the case?
Yeah, it was funny. you know, when we pitted there, and Brad came over the radio and asked what position we were in, and I told my my engineers up on the box, communicate between them. I said, you know what he's thinking? He's thinking he wants to finish 15th, because at that point it didn't matter what happened to the 48, and that just shows the dedication and what you know, what this means to him. And sure enough, it wasn't but a few laps later when he came over the radio and said that. And I don't know, we just think a lot alike, and I knew what he was thinking at that point. And I think that as bad as we ran tonight, that made it more special that we were still able to finish 15th regardless of what happened to the 48.
Let's go to Lee. We'll go back to Paul, and then Joe Menzer. Go ahead, Lee.
Lee Spencer, Fox Sports. Congratulations. Roger, no one would ever question your dedication in all of this, but when you look at the kind of person that Brad is, does it make you want to just invest yourself even more because you want to get behind this kid because of who he is?
Well, I think, you know, I said it before here, I guess on Friday, it's not how much money you put in your race team, it's all about the people and the human capital, and I guess Brad's right at the top. And when he came in and said, look, I want to help you build a championship team, and he looked me in the eye, shook my hand, and that's how we started. And there's no question that he's delivered, you know, way above what both of us probably thought was possible when you look at the competition and what we have to deal with. But, you know, he's a great leader on our team. You know, obviously I remember I said, I think earlier, that he said, I'm not helping Kurt Busch enough, meaning that he wasn't good enough at that point. But you know, when he took over the leadership of the team, I said to him, you're going to be the leader of this team, and I think that you've seen what's happened. And he hasn't missed a step. He's galvanized the team from the standpoint of the leadership with Paul and the whole team, and I think that never does he miss a day coming in the shop, putting his arm around the guys, and that makes a big difference. You know, you can be a big shot, but you got to get down on the ground and work with the guys that are doing all this work day in and day out. And I guess for me, this is what I love, taking people within an organization and see them flourish, and he certainly has today.
Let's go in the corner to Paul. We'll go to Joe Menzer, Bob Pockris, Jennifer Fryer. Go ahead, Paul.
Roger, it's Paul Kaminsky from CBS News. Over here, Roger.
Oh, sorry.
No problem. Hey,
I know who you are. I just looking to apologize.
Yeah, no sweat. How much of Mark Donohue do you see in a guy like Brad Keselowski? Both great setup in cars, and I mean, Mark got you your first NASCAR victory, and Brad got you your first championship. Talk a little bit about that, because you have a pair of eyes that nobody has. You could see things, you know, that other people, you see further down the road than a lot of us.
Well, I guess when I compare the two, you know, these are guys that, you know, would work in the shop. I remember many nights, you know, Mark Donohue would work all night in the shop, then get in the truck and tow the car to the races. And that's the kind of background that Brad had with his dad and his brother and uncle and what have you. And I think that, you know, Brad has become a technician. I mean, he's engineering savvy. Obviously, Mark went to Brown. Brad didn't have that opportunity. But I see them as pure team players. And I think that's the great teams. You look at Jimmy, you look at Jeff, you look at Earnhardt, all these guys, that what they built, the camaraderie. Think about Earnhardt Sr., you know, and Childress. You know, these things grow together, and I think that's what we did with Mark, and obviously that's what Brad has been able to do for our team. So I see them a lot like that they're the glue, they're the builders.
Let's go with Bob Pockris, Joe Menzer, Jennifer Fryer.
Bob Pockris, Sporting News. Paul, how dire a situation did you think you were in when you knew you were going to have to pit one more time and Jimmy was leading?
Well, I knew we, you know, it wasn't going to be easy, and you know, we weren't in the best situation we wanted to be in. But like I said before, part of that's just I wish we had a little more speed in our car tonight. I thought we would have, but at the same time, I think we were just being smart, and you know, it wasn't a great feeling. I can tell you that. It definitely wasn't. But at the end of the day, like I said, regardless if the 48 went to the garage or not, we were able to overcome that by taking the 4 tires and pitting twice for fuel, and being able to work our way back up to 15th.
Joe Menzer, Jennifer Fryer, Louis Frank.
Joe Menzer, NASCAR.com. This is a simple question for either one of you. What'd you do with Brad?
I'm not sure. They had a lot of people moving us around out there. He's out there somewhere still, probably drinking Miller.
No, he's doing an ESPN deal right now.
Oh, okay. But on a more serious note, Paul, that when Jimmy came in and topped off, you guys elected to stay out. I mean, you just talked about it a little bit, but how difficult of a decision was that, and were you worried that was maybe going to come back to haunt you?
Well, it was tough. I didn't realize, actually those guys were going to give up all that track position and come pit. So when they all came and we didn't, it was definitely put us in a situation. We felt like there was a pretty good chance of a caution, but it kind of all played out the way it did. So probably wasn't, like I said, wasn't our best race we put together during the chase, but we had great reliability through this chase, and we're able to be around there at the end, and sometimes that's just as important as having the fast race car.
Let's go Jenna Fryer, Lewis Frank, Mike Embry.
Jennifer, AP, I have two questions. I'll ask them one at a time. Roger, now you finally have your first Cup championship. How do you feel? And I mean, how do you feel? Don't give me all this stuff about the organization and how happy you are.
Well, personally, I feel amazing that I've been able to achieve this. In racing, I've audited the people who have been on that stage for so many years. I think in New York and also in Las Vegas, and to be able to join this elite group and say that I'm a champion in NASCAR means a lot. And certainly, it takes, as I said earlier, a lot of people. But I think it took the guts for me to stay in the sport. We could have thought, well, we won the Indy 500 15 times and we're a big deal, but I'll tell you one thing, until you get here and you compete at the top and win it, you really know what's happened. And I think I just woke up here, tonight, and it's a big thrill.
Thank you. And Paul, when you were teamed with Brad, you got a pretty raw driver who was, aggressive, and he sort of built a reputation. You won a nationwide championship with him, and now 3 years later you got a Cup championship. And the stat, if you bear with me, he won it in his 125th start, and the number before that, the only number that beats it is Jeff Gordon, who won it in his 93rd start. And then, if I'm not mistaken, you two are the only two who now have a nationwide championship and a Cup championship. So you've done a pretty impressive stuff together in 3 years. Did you think that you two could do that together in 3 years, a pretty short time, especially considering, as I said, what you got when you got him? He was pretty raw and had a long way to go.
Sure. Well, when Brad and I first got together, part of the reason I was excited about working with Brad was because I'd seen him win races in cars that I thought weren't as good as maybe cars I was putting on the racetrack at the time. And, as a crew chief or a team, that's always what you want. You want a guy that can win races when you might not have the best race car out there. So I saw that in Brad, and at that time I'm kind of the guy that takes one day at a time and try to be better each and every day at what I do, and never really looked at it from the standpoint of, I want to go win a championship with him. It was, I want to go win races and continue to grow as a team. And, we've done that each and every week and every year, and now we're rewarded with a Cup championship. So very excited, about what we've been able to accomplish. But, I guess when we got together in 2010, I wasn't looking at it from the standpoint of, going and winning a Cup championship.
Let's go Mike Embry, then we'll go to the press box, and then we'll come back down. Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry, Lewis. Let's go Lewis and then press box.
Lewis Frank, Reuters. Roger, it follows on in Jenna's question, but when Robert Yates won the championship with Dale Jarrett, he was a respected engine builder, had won many races in NASCAR and won Daytona 500s, but he said that as an owner, it puts you in a very special club, and I'm wondering if you thought about that, and are you going to change your license plate?
Wow, that's it was head of Indy 1, right? I guess I put NASCAR 1 on it now. I guess that might be right. No, it's a special position to be in as an owner, and obviously, as I said before, it's a goal that I wanted to achieve, and I tried hard. We were close in '93 with Rusty finishing second, and then third in '94. That's a long time ago. The competition has gotten tougher, And I think that any one weekend there's 10 or 15 cars that can win. And I think for us to be able to, have the continuity, and it's a team. We've built a special team here, and I'm proud to be the leader. But on the other hand, we delegate down to people like Mike Nelson and Travis, and obviously Paul and Tim Cindric gets a lot of credit for kind of putting this whole thing together. So when I can be part of that group and then say that we're at the top of the sport in 2012, it's a goal I'm sure everybody wants where they want to be.
Let's go press box.
Viv Bernstein, New York Times. For Roger, I hate to throw more numbers at you, but Brad is, I think, the third guy in the last 28 years to win when he was in his 20s. Jeff and Kurt Busch also were in their 20s, and they won. What do you see in his future? Is this just a beginning? Do you view him as a guy who can, win multiple titles? And I also, I guess, wonder about your future if you're in it for the next long haul as well.
Well, I think you said it. Jeff Gordon's the only one that won the championship at that early age, and you can see he's won multiple championships. And I can tell you this, that Paul already said to me, we got to go to work Tuesday morning and get ready to go next year. So it doesn't take long to have it sink in, and we got to think about the future. So obviously Brad's got not only the raw talent, but I think he's a thinking driver. I think his windshield's bigger than people realize. He knows what's going on and takes care of his car. You could see it on the restarts today. He wasn't going to, go and over-rev the engine, maybe lose an engine because of a valve spring. But I think he's going to be a multiple champion, and I hope that Paul and the team can continue to grow on the success we had this weekend and this year, and we can go on and do it again. As far as me personally, I guess I'm going to come to the races for as long as I can. I don't have a deadline. I don't have a number. I guess at this particular point, this racing keeps me young. So my number is one I don't talk about, but I need a couple of more championships, sure.
Press box, go ahead. All clear. Let's come back downstairs. I think Mike Embry and then Dean McNulty. Go ahead, Mike.
Paul, the race clicked along for quite a while with you and the 48 both running in the top 10, and there was no space for them to make up that distance. When did you begin to think, okay, those guys are going to do something different, something unusual to try to create at least a possibility of making up the space?
Well, I wasn't really sure. We were kind of holding our own there. I felt around 7th or 8th, and we had a small little hiccup on a pit stop and lost a little track position. And Brad was got back after it after that stop and got ourselves back in the top 10. But it seemed like our car just started to fade there a little bit, and I don't know if that was from him, pushing it real hard, trying to gain back what the spots we had lost in the pits, but at that point, obviously the 48 was slowly working their way to the front, and knew that it wasn't going to be easy, and we continued to work on our car and adjust on it, and we were hanging right around the edge there, but thought we would be much closer to the top 10, but we just kind of got ourselves in the situation we were in, and we got off there, like I said, on that fuel strategy there at the end when they all decided to come down. But with cutting the last run in half basically and coming for tires and fuel, we were able to make some of that ground back up, and I think that was definitely what helped us there at the end.
Over to the left, Dean.
Dean McNulty, the Toronto Sun. Roger, you talked Friday about Brad constantly giving you lists of things for the team to accomplish. Has he given you one yet for 2013?
Well, it's not only Brad, it's Paul. And I think that he told me I'd have a list on my desk by Wednesday. So I'm sure they didn't want to give it to me. Or come on in here. You bringing a list?
I didn't want to lose it.
Yeah. Did you bring your tweeter, did you? That's all I want to know.
Hold on, right here. It's heavy. Oh, no, it's not. Hold on. Paul's wearing some of it. Where were you? I missed you. Look how dry your shirt is.
Where are your goggles? You didn't have goggles for me.
Okay.
If you want to talk to the champion now, don't
Yes,
you?
sir, I believe so. Brad Keselowski has joined us, and Brad, I can congratulate you for winning that championship. And just tell us now how it feels.
Feels pretty good. Feels really good. I can't believe how everything just came together over the last, what's it been, 3 years? Has it been 3 years we've been together? 3 years Paul and I have been together. We're 2 for 3, Paul. You know that, right? I was just thinking about that. 2 for 3. That's 60, what is that, 666 average? Well, I don't want to round up there, but that's pretty good. And you know what? I feel like the best is yet to come. I really do. I feel like this team, with these 2 people sitting next to me, that we can do anything we set our mind to if we work together like we have over the last few years. I really do. And I just feel so fortunate to be where I'm at right now in life and with racing, to have guys like this around me, because you're a product of who you surround yourself by. And I'm surrounded by the best. And that's as sweet as life gets, to know that you have people around you that can make up for you when you make mistakes. So we all make mistakes, and I make a ton of them. But I know that when I make them, I got people that got my back. So thank you, guys.
Take questions now. We'll start with Jay and then go to David. Jay Busby, let's get the wireless mic, please. Not Jay Busby. Yeah, go ahead, Jay. I'm sorry.
Jay Busby, Yahoo Sports. Brad, can you sum up your season in 140 characters?
Well, that was going to be at 3 a.m. Oh, man, I'm almost out of characters. Let's see. Well, you know, starting from Daytona. We obviously didn't start Daytona the way we wanted. Got caught up in a wreck. But we knew we had some speed in our cars as the middle of the season and the spring came through. We had them fuel issues. We rallied deep, found a way through them. And when the summer stretch came, we didn't have the speed we wanted through the summer. But what we did have was execution that was incredible. And I knew it right away. I remember some of them races, the spring Pocono race. You remember that, Paul, where we had them troubles on with some part on the car? And we fixed them and came back from what should have been a 30-something place day and finished like 16th. And I knew right then, those days right there, I knew that if we could do that in the chase with speed, that we could win it. And then obviously as Michigan and some of those other races unfolded and we continued to work on our car and showed the speed that we did at Chicago, I knew that we had a shot at it. And obviously winning Chicago was a huge catalyst, but once we won Chicago, I felt like we could do it. I really did. And I knew that we had the speed, so many mile and a halves in the chase, and all of them are in a way like Chicago. And I felt like at that moment that we had a group that could get the job done.
David Caravello, George Diaz, Mike Embry. Go ahead, David.
David Caravello, NASCAR.com. Brad, you sat in here Thursday and heard Jimmy talk over and over again about how at some point you were going to feel the weight of this race. Did that ever happen?
I don't know. Did that happen, Paul? It's not fair for me to answer because I'm just going to say no. I mean, I don't feel like there was ever a part before the race where I was stressed out. I was stressed out over that yellow flag cycle at the end because, you know, obviously the right call there was probably to pit. But that's not the way it played out for us. I'm so thankful that we drove back to 15th so that I don't have to hear for the rest of my life about how if the 48 had not had them problems, he'd have won the championship. So thanks, Paul, for doing that. You know, there were some doubts at that moment when that whole cycle was going through, and you just don't know who's on what strategy. I don't know. I'm driving a car, and I'm listening to them, and I can hear their voice, and their voice wasn't real confident. I can tell you that. So I got to rewatch the race, and then maybe I'll have doubts then. Does that count? You ever do that? You ever watch a race, and you know that you know what happens at the end, and then you're like, no way, that can't happen. Yeah, maybe I'll have doubts then.
Let's go with George. Over to the left, George, and then Mike Embry.
Yeah, over here to your left, Brad. George Diaz, Orlando Sentinel. Did you have, after Jimmy had that problem, did you have that kind of exhale moment where you figured, hey, I got this? type. Just describe your emotions when you
I
found out
didn't know
Jimmy.
what kind of problem he had. I knew he had a loose lug nut, but Yell comes out, he's right back in the game. So that was to the extent that I knew. I wanted to win the race. Absolutely. I was just hoping that the race would play out to give us an opportunity to do so. Obviously it didn't, but I wanted to win the race the whole time. And I don't really enjoy watching hardships happen to my competitors. I don't enjoy that. In fact, I hate that. I want to beat them on the racetrack. I want to beat them by being the best that we can be and out-executing them and winning on the racetrack. And I don't enjoy at all watching things happen to my competitors that take them out like that. So I can tell you that I wasn't cheering. How about that?
Mike Embry?
Brad, do you have any kind of estimate on how much of your sponsor's product you had consumed when you did that TV spot?
I don't know. We got to guess. Well, I did have a big cup. You're right. Someone took it from me. They did.
Before you came in here, we took it.
Yeah, I'm going to get it back tonight.
I told him that you were commercially viable now after all that work on Miller.
Let's go Bob Pockrass off to the right. Get him the wireless, please. And then we'll go to Greg.
Bob Hocker, Sporting News. Brad, how would you describe as far as your demeanor maybe in the car? I mean, were you extremely nervous when you knew that there was a chance you were going to be off the pit cycle from everybody? Did you have a pit in your stomach, or?
Well, I couldn't see the whole picture, and that's so frustrating in the car. I wish I had one of those fan visions in the car or something like that. I need one of those so that I can understand what's going on. But I have to trust these guys, and that's what a team is. It's a group that trusts and respects everybody that's around them. And like I said, I could hear from Paul and my spotter Joey's voice that they didn't sound all that confident, and so I was very curious how it was going to play out. Yeah, I don't know if there's not. I don't have enough information. I don't know what's going on.
Let's go Greg Engel. Let's go to Jim Utter and then to Lee.
Greg Engel, Examiner.com. Congratulations to all you guys. Brad, you're such an easygoing guy. You interact with fans on your Twitter. You're always talking to them. And out tonight, it was like your crowning achievement. It's like your coronation, standing out there with the crowd, and you're yelling at the crowd. You're going to be on TV. And tell NASCAR fans who may not have been a huge fan of you before this, what can they expect from Brad Keselowski as the reigning NASCAR Sprint Cup champion going forward?
Expect the unexpected. That's my MO, right? I can't answer it. I don't know yet. I know that you can expect from this team to come back next year and try to be better than ever and try to improve and find that next level of success. I know that's what you can expect from this team, and I'm going to be right there with them.
Let's go Jim Utter, Lee Spencer, Jenna Fryer.
Jim Utter, Charlotte Observer for Brad and Paul. Last year when we were here and saw what transpired between Tony and Carl Edwards, many people said we'll never see that kind of stuff again. Thanks to Mike Ford at NASCAR, I just saw that your finishing average in the chase is 6.3 this year, which is exactly what Tony's was last year. Would you what would you think about some matching kind of, not in wins, but in overall? You talked a lot about execution, but being able to match that.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, Tony's done a lot in this sport, and I don't know what the points totals were. I guess that's what you would have to look at more so than the finishing average, because you got bonus points and things of that nature that play into that. So they're the same? Oh, okay. All right. I don't know what Tony's were, but it would have been close. I don't know which way. It's a good rule of thumb that if you score 400 points in a chase that you can win it, and I think that was the point I made third or fourth race in. Didn't I say 40 points a race would win it? Dang, I felt good about it. I like being right.
You're right tonight.
But that's a good rule of thumb. And I feel like we did a great job throughout the chase. It's hard to compare years of the chase because there's seems to always be some kind of variable. Whether it's we all talk about Talladega every year, and this year we had the repave at Kansas and some fuel mileage stuff at Dover, and it's never quite fair in my eyes to compare year after year. And what Tony did was a phenomenal accomplishment. He won 5 races in the chase. No other driver has even come close to that from what I can remember, and I don't suspect anyone ever will. So he deserves all the credit and accolades that he received for that accomplishment. Okay, yeah. So we're right there with him, and it's been a great season. And when you're right there by a guy like Tony Stewart, you got a lot to be proud of.
Lee Spencer. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's I don't know, just to be able to battle the 48 like we did, and we both won races in the chase. We both had some races where we didn't run well, but I think when you look at what they've been able to accomplish over the last 10 years, say, they're definitely the best at this game, and I think that even makes it more special for me to know that we went head to head with those guys all the way down to the last race. So. Like Brad said, it's every year's a little different scenario. Obviously, the Stewart was able to win more races, but it was definitely a lot of fun racing with Chad and Jimmy like we did.
Let's go Lee Spencer, Jenna Fryer, and then Paul Kaminsky.
I've got a question for Roger and a question from Brad. Roger, when Brad was mired in traffic, you and Walt and Bud and Tim pulled away from the railing, and you guys looked like you were having a little powwow. What were you guys discussing? Were you strategizing, or?
Well, I wanted to really, I guess, when Jimmy made that move, and I wanted to understand when he came back out on the racetrack where he was. I knew he was a lap down. I didn't know how many cars were between where Jimmy was and the lucky dog, and that's where I knew we had some cushion. I think there were 7 cars at that point. And we've got to be careful giving Brad too much information because he's got to focus. And I think one thing that probably hadn't been said tonight that, as we started, he felt that the car had a little understeer in it, and he was taking care of his right front tire. And I think that's one thing that the race that he ran tonight was a championship race. And, we always wanted to be fast. You could see the car at the end when it was time to go. And even at some of the time we had to catch up, but we were just talking about that and then deciding, to communicate back to the guys in the pits. They knew that, and I even felt at the end that not everybody was going to have to make a stop. So we had a good chance that we'd be able to pick it back up, even if Jimmy was out there. So, I was trying to stay as calm as I could. It wasn't easy, so I had to get some people around me to help me.
I didn't get there yet, but. Joey said something to you on the radio, which I found curious. He said, "All I can remember is what part of he doesn't have any brakes. Don't you understand?"
Oh, I got to tell this story. Oh, this is a great story. You've never heard this one, Roger.
I'm anxious.
Joey is my spotter. Joey Meyer, 2-spotter on Twitter if you want to follow him. And the first time I worked with him was it was the first couple of races I worked. I'm not going to say it was the first time. It was really close to the first time. I was at Charlotte in 2007 in the spring race, and my dad was crew chiefing. And we were driving, I was driving, I should say, this car for this guy out of Kentucky, and it was really underfunded, and we made the show. And keep in mind, 2007 was a really tough year to make the nationwide races with all the double-duty cars and so forth. And we made the show, and it was great, and it was everything I could have dreamed of. And, it was just when I was starting to break in. And so Joey's alluding to that because we were together as we were breaking in, or he'd already been as part of the sport, but I was breaking in with him. And that's when our relationship really started. And so anyway, in this race, there's 2 parts to this story. We changed our right front spring once in practice, and Paul will appreciate this because he's a crew chief and a car guy. But in order to put a right front spring in, you got to lower the suspension down, and these cars have brake lines in them, and it's flexible brake line. But the way the spring went in, the brake line was too short, and it broke. So we changed the spring, and I went out on the track. And about that time, the yellow came out for practice, somebody wrecked, and it was right at the end of practice. And so practice got canceled right there. But I was already out on the line. And for those of you that have been to Charlotte and know how that works, at the end of nationwide practice, Cup qualifying begins. And so for whatever reason, I don't remember exactly why, instead of doing a lap around the track and return to the garage, everybody did like this half lap backwards down that quarter-mile track they have at Charlotte. Well, I didn't realize I didn't have any brakes. So we grabbed like second or third gear. We're going like 65 mile an hour backwards around this racetrack, and I make this right-hander into the quarter mile, and the whole Cup field's there for qualifying. I mean, the whole Cup field. And I'm going like 60 mile an hour, and I go to hit the brakes, nothing. And all I can see is all these people, all these cars, and Jeff Gordon's car's right in front of me. I got no brakes, and I'm out of control. So I make this hard lap and go through the infield, and I'm just tear this car all up. And the record driver comes and gets me, and he yells in the window in this very southern voice, you know, a couple obscenities with basically saying, "What were you doing?" And I'm like, "I didn't have any brakes." So as it would happen, we replaced that brake line with another brake line that just happened to be even shorter and broke in the race. So we get in the race, and we do this first run in the race, and I'm running pretty good. I'm running like 15th or 20th, which, again, for where I was at in my career was great. You know, it was awesome. That was all I could ask for. And there's a green flag pit cycle. And getting ready for the green flag pit cycle, and I push the brakes. We're halfway through the run, and the brake line breaks off this car. And so this car won't stop. So we talk about it for 15, 20 laps. And we're talking about, well, when this green flag pit stop comes, you know, we're going to have to get the car stopped because the car's not going to stop. You know, it's got no brakes. And we get on pit road, and I go to pull into my pit stall. And everybody jumps across the wall, jack in hand, everything. And everyone forgot that I had no brakes, and I just right through the pit stall. So I go, this is in the middle of green flag pit stops. So I'm like 20 boxes down, no brakes. So the whole crew runs over and starts to push the car backwards. And I get Joey spotting the whole time, and Joey's over the rail going, "Oh, my God," you know, and Joey's real exaggerated about it. And we finally they're pushing my car backwards really, really fast. And I get 5 stalls away, and they're pushing me backwards, and they do like this push-off motion, like a bobsled. And so what happens? I still have no brakes. So I'm going down pit road at what feels like 35 mile an hour. I know a human being can only run like 10 or 15, but it felt like this car was going 35 mile an hour. Backwards, under green, in the middle of green flag pit stops, no brakes. And, of course, so what happens? I go flying through pit box backwards and almost up on the racetrack backwards. And my dad comes over the radio at that moment and goes, "What part of no brakes don't you understand?" And he just goes off on these crew guys. And for me and for Joey, that was one of those moments where we bonded together and just have told that story. And Joey's been with me almost ever since. So that's how far Joey and I have come together. But we still tell that story all the time. So now you know the story. That's my racing story.
Okay, let's...
I don't think you guys have heard that either, have you?
No.
No.
Let's pick it back up here. Jenna, did you get your
It was
question?
story time. We were bench racing.
Let's go Jenna, Paul Kaminsky, Louis Frank, and then Nate.
Yeah, lucky me. Yeah. Jenna Fryer, AP. So it's
The second time of the week I've left you speechless.
Second time in 7 days. So it's well documented. I guess you went to visit Roger in 2008, and you wanted to drive for him, and you felt that you could win him a championship. And you know, it wasn't really an organization that had known for drivers wanting to go there and win championships. Why did you think that you were the right fit for the organization? I don't think that you were a guy with white starched shirts in your closet and sweater vests and things like that.
I am now. I am now. I got a couple of them.
I mean, what made you think that you're this Penske material guy and that you were the one that could fit? Because you don't seem like you're part of the mold, and yet here you are 3 years later.
When I walk through the shop, That was the moment I knew, because I walked through the shop, and you can't race a shop, and I'll be the first one to tell you that. But I knew from that moment what level of commitment that Penske Racing had to the sport. And all the pieces were there to be successful. And the fact that RP spent the time with me to talk. He didn't have to talk to me. I was 20. How old was I then? 23, 24? He didn't have to do that. We had just won. He just won the IndyCar Championship that year. I can't remember. I think he won the 500 that year. I remember that because I saw you and I said, "Congratulations, 500 winner." I think Helio just won it. So he didn't have to talk to me. He just won an Indy 500. So I could feel all the pieces were there. It was just a matter of kind of putting them in the right order, like this great big jigsaw puzzle. And I don't think we have every piece perfect right now. I'll be the first to tell you. I imagine Roger would tell you that too. But you knew they were there. You knew you could make something out of it, and the picture could be made clear, and you could be successful. And it was just a matter of time and commitment until it would be successful. And I felt like with the right time and commitment that we could do that.
And at the time, you were kind of raw, and you were aggressive on the track, and you were building this reputation, maybe not the right reputation. Did you have to make a conscious decision or change anything consciously, or maybe look yourself in the mirror? Is it anything that you had to do, or was it just natural to get you from there to here?
Well, I think I suffered from some serious confidence issues when I first came into Cup that were a result of, a lot of things, mostly just not having the speed to be successful and trying to do too much. I was trying too hard to be the I in team, and there is none. And that's pretty obvious looking back now, but I didn't know that. I do now, but it's not until you have the group around you that shows you that you don't have to do all the work, that you can share it, and that as long as you respect them, care about them, and work with them, you can be successful. And that's something I had to learn on my own. I never had anybody to teach me that. Nobody ever taught me about teamwork. That's something I had to learn on my own. My family, my parents, my mom and dad, they taught me about work ethic. They taught me what it meant to be a part of a family that had each other's back, but it's a lot different when you're not family. It's a lot different when you walk into a group. What are we, like 390 employees now? 350, somewhere in there? I'm not related to any of them. So that I know of, yeah.
He is now.
I am now. So it's completely different trying to motivate somebody that you're not related to, whose livelihood doesn't depend necessarily on your success. To some extent it does, and so from that standpoint, I didn't understand teamwork. And growing up and being a part of the sport and being around people like Paul and Roger taught me how important that is. And I think that's been most influential to my success over the past 3 years.
Let's go to Paul, Lewis, and Nate.
Brad, it's Paul Kaminsky, CBS News. When you went to Roger's place, you had to know that you were coming up and going to work for a guy who had some really great people that worked for him, like Mark Donohue, who got his first NASCAR win, the Rick Mears, Elio, and things like that. What do you think about your place in the history of Penske Racing now that you brought him the first Cup championship?
I think I got a long ways to go to keep up with those guys. And there's a lot of work to be done. And like I said, I feel like we're still at the beginning. I don't feel like you can't judge something off the beginning. If you were building a house and you just looked at the foundation, it doesn't look like much of anything. And I feel like we're very early. We've got the cement poured, and I want to keep building.
Let's go to Lewis, Nate, and David Newton. Lewis?
Yep. Lewis Frank Reuters, in front of the bottle there, Brad. Hi. And Auto Week. You like sayings. There's a saying, revenge is a dish best served sweet. Next time you show up Cold. Thank you. It's been a long day for me, too. Cold. Cold.
I was going to say, that's a new saying on me.
Cold. Thank you. I haven't even had beer.
Sounds like you need one, Lewis.
You go to Daytona, okay, beating a team that year in, year out, other than last year, has been the toughest competition. And time again, each of you have come over to congratulate you. So I was wondering, this cold revenge, how is it going to feel when you show up in Daytona?
I'm missing the part on revenge. You mean?
The revenge here of some criticism that you were upset with last week.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I've tried real hard to not be motivated by negative. I don't think that's healthy. Not long term. Short term, it can create a fire that can roar beyond your wildest dreams. But the problem with that fire is that it burns yourself down in the process. You can't be successful with that. And I've tried really hard to not be motivated by hatred, revenge, or any of those things. And I think as a group we've done a good job of not doing that. So there was no part of me that took any celebration in proving that part wrong today, or maybe it will be different tomorrow. I don't assume it will. What I take pride in is the group of guys who joined Penske Racing in 2010, starting with Paul. And I look at the car chief, Jerry Kelly. I look at a guy like Brian Wilson, who's my engineer, head engineer, whose career was really on the ropes before 2010. And I look at those three people as being three of the key players that together, I don't know where we'd have been apart. I don't know. I can't imagine it would have been this successful. Maybe I'm wrong. But when I look back at this, at least in this moment, I think of those three people. And I think how proud I am to be a part of taking them from the unknown, because I was right there with them, to where we're at today. And obviously, I look at RP as being a piece of that as well, and doing something that nobody else has ever done with Roger, which is something very special. Obviously, I was in that whole Hendrick mix in 2008 and 9, and winning it for Roger is much sweeter than that could have ever been, because I know that this is an accomplishment nobody else has ever done. And those are the things that I think of, not any revenge or anything like that. I'm not motivated by hatred.
Let's go to Nate Ryan, David Newton, and we'll end with Mike Brunell.
Nate Ryan, USA Today. Straight ahead, Brad. You're going to be a champion like NASCAR's never had before, obviously by default because you're 28 years old and first generation Y guy, but also because of, like you said, expect the unexpected. Jeff Gordon was in here earlier and says you're going to do a great job as the ambassador, but he also said a championship changes you, it matures you, it makes you a different person. How are you expecting that being the face of NASCAR might affect you and change you?
I don't know. I'm going to meet some cool people. I've always wanted to date a celebrity. I'm just throwing that out there. That'd be really cool, don't you think? I mean, do I have to pick one? Maybe I shouldn't have said that, Kerry.
No problem.
Not a Kardashian. I'm just throwing that out there. You're married. It's okay, Paul.
Let's go. Did you get what you needed there, Nate?
Pretty
good, I thought. Let's go, David Newton, and we'll end with the Michigan man, Mike Brunell.
I'm David Newton, ESPN.com. Brad, first of all, can you tell us how many Twitter followers you've picked up tonight? Did that change?
No. Let's check. I think I started at 328. You take so much stock in the amount of followers. Hold on. It's probably not that many. Okay, so 6,000. That's something.
That's good.
That's something. 6,000.
And Roger, you compared him to Rick Mears, I guess, a couple days ago. When you see what you've seen over the last couple of hours since Victory Lane celebration, do you want to amend that? How do you describe that? And for a guy that's rather conservative like you are, how do you deal with that?
Well, maybe I act conservative, but I like to have a little fun too. And I think that when you've won the NASCAR championship, the driver, we kind of give him a little wider path, and he's certainly taken it side to side. So I think it's all good.
Off to the left, we'll have our final question from Mike Brudnell.
To both you guys, Roger and Brad, the folks back in Detroit, I know, are really proud of both of you and would probably like to have a beer with you, Brad, for sure. What do you say to them? It's been tough up there, and champions have been rare in recent years.
Are you taking that one, Roger?
Well, both. This is for both of you.
Oh, for both of me? Wow, what do I say to them? Oh, I don't know what to say. I at some level, you hope it somewhat speaks for itself. That if you work hard enough, long enough, that things will find a way to happen. And I'm proud to have accomplished this goal with another guy that takes the community in that area so seriously. I know RP does. I think we all know that, and that makes it that much sweeter. But I don't know what to say to them or to anyone in that area. I just hope that it speaks to them and that it helps them find happiness.
Mike, obviously, my commitment to, downtown Detroit started with the Super Bowl back in 2006 and spent 5 years getting ready. And it was interesting. We had a great Super Bowl, and I got to know a lot about the city. And there's no question that, we've been through some tough times. But when I see the renaissance that's taking place there now, it's amazing. The companies are moving downtown. The young people are moving downtown. And for us to bring this NASCAR championship, I'm not sure. It's not Charlotte where people understand the sport. They understand the stick and ball sports in Detroit. They've had great hockey teams. The Lions have done better and the Pistons at some point. But to me, to bring home this championship, I would have to say in my words, it's like bringing the Super Bowl, to Detroit, with this young man winning in Michigan and being from the Detroit area. So, hopefully he'll get his due and what he deserves for being this great champion, and I'm just glad to be part of it myself.
Congratulations go out to number 2, Miller Lite Dodge, driver Brad Keselowski, crew chief Paul Wolfe, and owner Roger Penske. Well deserved, and I think we're going to have some fun with this championship team. Thank you.
Can't wait to see you guys in Vegas.